Thank you for still viewing in. We are back here with our continued conversation with Chief of the Department of Industrial Relations. And shortly before our break, we were just talking about new and prospective industries as relates to where is this new apprenticeship model, where is the industry going? Because, obviously we know the firefighters, obviously we know the police, obviously we know the hospitality sector, we know the nursing sector, we know the construction sector. What other industries can we start preparing our young people for to get ready? Because by the time they become work ready,
Yep.
What industry?
So I think we have an opportunity. There's all industries.
All industries.
And so one of the things that we are looking at is the pace of technology. And even within industries, even within construction, you start looking at the type of technology that's being, infused into the construction trades.
Right.
Which means that they're updating their training. Which
Right.
I'll give you an example: drones. You have now various types of equipment, heavy equipment that can be programmed to do prep work
Right.
on land,
Right.
and so there's a lot of different, so the types of jobs that are going to be out there, a lot of it's going to be tied to a lot of the technology.
Do you guesstimate, Eric, that there could possibly be a universal type curriculum or core competencies that we say are non-negotiables in a candidate for any industry? That this individual, if they possess these 5, 6 core competencies, that universally they could transition over into this industry because these core competencies we believe are the gold standard of elements, 21st century soft skills, right?
Right. Well, I think that's the key is that whatever we do, we never stop learning.
Right.
That's the key, right? And so if you look at around the world, we're really behind when it comes to apprenticeship.
Right.
What they do in Europe and what they do in Asia and various areas in the world, it's just ingrained. Pre-apprenticeship gets into junior high and even in the elementary trades. So by the time you hit your freshman year, there's an opportunity to go into registered apprenticeship or into the academic side. And it's not one or the other. In Switzerland, it's really interesting. I think that's, we'll never have a Swiss model in California, but we'll have a California model.
Right.
That's specific to California. And what that entails is really using our infrastructure, which we have within our K-12, within our community colleges, adult education, and in our CSU and UC systems.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do see is there is a core competency of saying, okay, if you have certain skill sets, and a lot of it is learning how to be ready, be on the job, be timely, how to interview, how to interact,
Mm-hmm.
and then the ability of allowing training to occur,
Right.
Specific to a particular trade or occupation. But
Right.
yeah, we're looking at right now at developing what we call minimum industry training criteria. And we're putting together within our subcommittees and within the Interagency Advisory Committee on Apprenticeship, a lot of these are new and emerging occupations that we've
Right.
historically we've really neglected from a training aspect, and that's the investment. And if we do this right, it would allow somebody to be able to go in and out of various professions because they already have the skill sets.
Right.
That's going to make them successful.
So do you think when you talk about the UC system, the junior colleges, and not K through 12, obviously at the upper levels of education, it seems that from a readiness standpoint, meaning, say for instance, I want to take your construction management course. Yeah. And I need to be gainfully employed. It's difficult for me to go and commit to 18 months when I have bills to pay. I have mouths to feed.
That's right.
So do you think that there's community-based organizations and where you potentially could credential them in a plethora of state recognized certifications of readiness that will allow these individuals to go through their 6-week training, ascertain this state recognized certification that leads directly into an industry. Do you foresee something of that nature happening?
Absolutely, and I believe we are doing that right now. We're looking at a lot of times the industry is looking for certain industry recognized certifications.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? We build those into the actual apprenticeship. Right, and so you may, I'll give you a great example. Down in the Central Coast, San Luis Obispo, with our County Office of Education, they were able to ascertain the California Apprenticeship Initiative grant
Mm-hmm.
That put, and they wanted a 50% gender equality within their boot camp to do various types of CompTIA certifications beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got 18 local businesses to say they would agree to hire 1 to 2 of their graduates that came out of that program.
Right.
And it was so successful the first go around, businesses were coming back and saying, we want now this occupation and this occupation. So it started out with software testers.
Mm-hmm.
So entry-level type of software types of occupations.
Right.
Into now they're looking at, we've developed 18 different occupations that are apprenticeable now. And some of the companies, the reason why they wanted to do that, I call this Operation Grandchild, right? This is the grandparents that are saying, why is all the grandkids leaving, the Inland Empire? Why are they leaving Fresno? Why are they leaving Barstow? Why are they leaving Oroville?
Right.
Because there's not jobs.
There's no jobs.
There's not opportunities.
Right.
So if we can start developing opportunities that with individuals that are invested in their local community, then you're going to have longevity. The investment into our local community makes all the difference.
And it takes what they said. It takes a community to raise, right? And so when you start talking about the commitment from these employers, it seems to me that we can, outreach and prepare people. However, if the persons that sign the check aren't willing to, support the endeavor, how do we?
So I think it's the infrastructure. An apprenticeship is scary if I'm an individual employer, and if I'm a small business, there's fear, right? I have, I'm trying to make a profit in the short term, but also looking, at the end of the day, if I'm able to get skilled individuals into an opportunity that doesn't require me to do, it's kind of like, the analogy would be like electricians, for instance. The employer just wants to make sure that the lights turn on or off.
Right.
They don't want to see all the wiring in the back room. That's where your community-based organizations come in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where what we call intermediaries, right?
Okay.
Or an intermediary can be anything from a local workforce development board.
Mm-hmm.
It could be an employer association. It could be, a community college, or in this case, now in San Luis Obispo, it could be the County Office of Education.
Right.
But what they're able to do, we're actually launching one of the first youth apprenticeships in the state of California down our neighbors to the south here in San Joaquin County.
Okay.
That is looking that local high school districts will be hiring their own students.
Good.
To work in IT, right? And looking at potential professions, but it's a public-private. And so the intermediary is not looking at one industry.
Mm-hmm.
They can service many industries.
Right.
And we have the the local workforce development board that's running it as the master committee.
Okay.
And then there's going to be subcommittees that are specific to industries that would be reporting up as they develop more. So you can bring in big companies.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm an employer, employers are starving for skilled and trained workers.
Right.
And if we're able to develop, and it does take community, it really takes our local education, and that comes with K-12, whether it's the County Office of Education, a local school district, adult education,
Right, can't forget that.
community college, and it's required under state law. You have to actually have a local educational agency, what we call an LEA,
Okay,
that sanctions the curriculum.
gotcha.
And then once you have that, then you have to have a mechanism that ensures the protection of those apprentices, right? So that's where I come in, right? That's where you actually have what we call rules. And
Right.
the rules we call them standards, but what they are is just basically laying out the groundwork as far as what the expectation is for the program as well as the apprentice, right? So there's accountability,
Right.
it provides a guidance including selection procedures. It includes you'll be trained in certain work processes that are specifically identified. You're going to have as you ascertain skills, there's going to be a progression of wages, right? And then there's going to be at the completion, there's going to be a certificate of completion, a state recognized. And within that, you can have your industry recognized certificates on top of it. So as the apprentice is progressing into a skilled and trained worker, they're actually going to have the credentials,
Right, and the pay to go along with it.
and the pay to go along with it. And so if I'm needing to put food on the table, I'm not sacrificing the job aspect to go to school. I'm actually learning while I earn. So that's why we call it an earn while you learn model.
Right. I mean, when you consider, some of the challenges, our youngest son, Christopher, works for Tiger. He went to Sac State, got his mechanical engineering degree out of the program, and he had the darndest time, working in that field. But, fortunate, he didn't have, a debt, thank God, thank you, Jesus. But someone had to pay for it, right? So you're welcome, son. But the vast majority of people are coming out of universities with this tremendous debt and with no guarantee of employment in that particular degreed area. Too often we have seen where people have tons of debt, have a degree, and are working in industries that's not even related to their degrees.
Right.
And the apprenticeship model, earn while you learn, no debt when I'm done with this apprenticeship, but I have all the benefits, dental, medical, vision, retirement, all these things. I went through an apprenticeship when I played baseball.
Yeah.
And, I earned while I'll learn in the minor leagues in preparation for the major leagues.
That's right.
And so to your point earlier, this model has been around for a long time, to the days of Christ.
Yep.
And so I don't know why when we hear apprenticeship, people really, unfortunately, somewhat resist it. To your point, the small contractor, small business owner, I understand, some of the angst associated where I'm trying to make some money, keep my doors open, bringing someone in to pay that may not have a skill set necessary to work at the highest level. I got to train them. I got to have the internal angst, right, of their fundamental mistakes and this and that, and so I'm weighing all these things to say, is it really worth it?
And I would say yes, and this is why, because even if you don't participate in registered apprenticeship, when you hire somebody as a business, you're still having to onboard that person and provide them training. And so what's nice about registered apprenticeship, and if you can have an infrastructure that's built in, an intermediary that would say it's almost similar to calling up a personnel service saying I need this type of thing. What the key is to be able to, as that person's learning a specific skill, they're also taking classes that help them even hone into those skills. So not only that they're learning how to do the hands-on training, they're also getting the book smarts as well. And what we find is that you're going to have more loyal employees.
Right.
And so you're going to have less turnover. And of course, everything in business, especially payroll with employers, if you have a high turnover, that's money.
That's money.
And their unemployment insurance rate, is all contingent on retention.
Right.
And what apprenticeship provides is retention. And it provides an opportunity. Now, with that being said, we're talking about industries that have historically relied on our university systems. And actually, to be honest with you, this is really a phenomenon. It really, as it comes in the 1960s and 1970s, if you looked in the 1950s, only 2% of the jobs required a college degree.
Wow.
And I can even personally testimony of my grandfather, my mom's dad, had a high school diploma
Right.
from the state of Ohio, and came out in the aerospace industry.
Wow.
Back in he came out in the 50s, and he was working for Donald Douglas back in the day, and doing calculus all by hand.
Wow.
And didn't spend a day in college, but when he retired, they brought him back to train all of those MBAs that were coming in,
Imagine
engineers,
that. Right.
Because again, they were relying on computers and other things where,
It's like Space Cowboys when they brought back Tommy Lee Jones,
That's right.
Clint Eastwood, and all that stuff. On that note, Eric, I thought about the fact that you have all these responsibilities up and down the state. You're pulled here, you're pulled there, you're on this political thing, you're on this, you're on this. And you are a husband, you have children, you live in Yuba City.
I do.
And I just wonder, how the heck are you able to be all these things to all the people? In particular, one of your daughters, Alyssa, she's special needs.
Yeah.
And we've had the privilege of meeting her. And I just wonder, how do you do it all?
Well, I don't know if I do it all necessarily. I can't do it in my own strength.
Right.
First and foremost. I can tell you that it's been the personal relationship with Jesus Christ as my Lord is the number one reason why I'm here today. It's like, okay, Lord, where are you taking me today? Right. And so a lot of it is, my day will be determined whether or not I spent time with Him in the morning.
Right.
And if I don't spend time with Him in the morning, then I will be frantic and I will, not necessarily have that peace. But what I can say is, if you would have asked me even 5 years ago, you're going to be running the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, I would have said, you're crazy.
Right.
And God opens up doors. And so a lot of my prayer is, give me your eyes and give me your ears. Because what we do on a daily basis is interact, right? And it's really easy to judge a book by its cover, but if we're doing it with our physical eyes, we're missing opportunities.
Right. So do you find, Chief, you mentioned your faith convictions.
Yeah.
And you said, if I don't seek Him first in the morning and day, then my day was going to be frantic and all those things. And so, as a pastor, those are, refreshing words to hear, because ultimately, I don't have the ability and the power in and of myself to convert and give anyone the gift of salvation. Right? And Paul spoke about this in the book of Romans around the 10th chapter. He says, in me, I want everybody to be saved, but everyone won't have the desire, and blame it on a schedule, and blame it on my calendar, and blame it on these things. And so to hear you say that your first thought of the day is to fellowship with Him as a public official, right? To hear a governor appointed official talk about their faith in a very open way, but to live that faith is you're to be commended.
Well, I'm blessed, first and foremost. You realize There's days when I do well, and there's days that I don't do as well.
Right.
Right?
We all have those.
Oh my. And so, but one of the things that I look at is just the opportunity to touch lives. Yeah. And being in this role, this is the first time, like I said, most of my career was focused on tax law and labor law.
Right.
And so I was always more on the enforcement side. To now be able to be in a transition to look at workforce and being able to, I tease because now I look at our prison to employment opportunities really touch our folks that are looking for a second chance and opportunities there. Looking at opportunities to provide opportunities for those who've been in generational poverty. That's the work of what the Lord, right? And so it's just like, okay, Lord, give me those eyes, give me a wisdom. That's another prayer, right? Constantly discernment, right? And as we interact, and to just love on people. At the end of the day, to have a grateful heart. If we don't have that, it's really hard to really meet our goals and our mission of what we have in life. And God's got a calling for each one of us. To say, okay, this is how we're going to be able to make a difference. Yeah. And to your point, Pastor Brown, is that we don't have any control of what others do. But it's amazing how just being able to throw a few seeds.
Well, you think about, most recently, Eric and I had the chance to play a little golf. We were working, of course, and were able to bring in Ricky Johnson, RJ Safety, longtime construction guy.
Great guy.
And just being able to see how, if you embrace life as active ingredients, that we believe that God is in control of everything, and therefore no meeting is by accident, but is by the providence of God. The way that we embrace those elements create an opportunity. Ricky, is a young believer, right? And he's on fire. And so, he's really super excited about connecting with you, but more importantly, he is talking more about the Christ element that has been made manifest just in your conversation out on the golf course, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
As we start to wind this thing down, I want to ask you this. So you are an avid follower of Christ. You are the division chief. You're the husband. You have children and things like this. You play golf. And is it ever any... Obviously, you deal with a lot of people that may not have your same convictions as it relates to Christianity, as it relates to seeing people from the vantage point that all humanity has redemptive value. May not have your lens to say, hey, everyone, let's create a space of neutrality so that everyone that wants to come and drink some of the water can have some of the water. How do you navigate around those barriers?
That's a great point. So first and foremost, every human being, it has the imagery of God.
Yes.
A lot of times we say image of God. It's actually more than just the image. Imagery. Imagery is something that it's a position. It's a position within creation. And so when you start looking with spiritual eyes, you realize that there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. And part of it is being able to, just on a human level, just being able to meet somebody where they're at. And I would say, it's interesting, I worked in Reading for 13 years. And Reading is an area that's very homogeneous.
Yes, it is.
And it's very conservative. And it's really easy to be in a bubble. And so the Lord said, I'm moving you out of Reading. I'm going to plant you into Sacramento. You're going to have statewide responsibility. So in 2007, overnight, I had a great job. I had dream job. I was a hearing officer.
Right.
And people called me your honor.
Right.
Right. And I made the determinations and stuff. And I was only 1 year into the job when God said, no, as I was journaling, I'm going to put you in a position of authority.
Right.
And the next thing I know, I had 84 staff members. I had 11 offices. I had 9 direct reports for the labor commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that has allowed me to do was to get out of my bubble.
Right.
And to be able to really see folks with all different worldviews and perceptions. But that doesn't change our mission as missionaries. We're all missionaries. Right. And so it's listening, and then it's also in the spirit being able to try to have words of wisdom.
Right. That's very insightful. You know, I think about, you mentioned Reading, and many of my experiences up in Reading, Red Bluff, Enterprise, Anderson, was very unique. Haven't really been back up that way since I graduated high school, but we used to go up there and travel and compete all the time. And obviously, you know, it is very homogeneous and very conservative, and you know, I get all that, but we live in society today that is changing. And we see all the social unrest. We see the moral decay of society. You know, you taking immigrant children, locking them up, and you know, all the things that we have publicly seen are behaviors that ought to cause us to want to do something.
Right.
To want to do something to promote positive outcomes for everyone. And to your point of seeing those persons protesting, to see the pain, the anguish of oppression, of having a system that has been designed against me, and to see how finally people are saying, you know, enough is enough. I just want an opportunity. Right?
I would say also realize our war is not with flesh and blood.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, I think we get caught up in the flesh and blood.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is we have an enemy. We have true enemies that are trying, the whole goal of the enemy is to destroy the human race.
Right.
So if they can divide, conquer. So a lot of what I ask myself is this a spirit that's uplifting?
Mm-hmm.
Is it unifying? If you look at what Jesus, his last prayer, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? He's sitting there and he goes, my prayer for the future is that
they be one.
That be one.
John 17.
That's
They be one.
They be one.
Right.
And so he's praying for us today, right? And so realizing that, you know, we actually have a spiritual warfare going on.
Right.
And to realize that spiritual warfare, that's, you know, changes how I pray for somebody. That's how it changes the way I look at somebody, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, there is an opportunity that our life on planet Earth is but just a blink of an eye.
Blink of an eye.
Compared to eternity.
Right. You know, Eric, thank you for reminding us that we are engaged in a warfare, and it's not against flesh and blood. And so, to that point, you're right, it's easy for us to get caught up in the physicality when we see the physical things and we don't recognize the spirit behind it. But if we can have spiritual eyes to see and detect the spirit and the character traits of that spirit, it will better help us in our warfare. Listen, we are on the Mound with Pastor Brown today, and again, we are in studio with Chief Eric Rood from the Department of Industrial Relations. We are super, super excited that he has sacrificed and his schedule to come and join us on today. I tell you this is all the time we have with Chief Rood on this particular episode, but I promise you that I will do whatever I need to do to get him back in studio so that we can continue this conversation and kick off a new conversation. Until then, thank you again for tuning in to On the Mound with Pastor Brown. God bless and God keep you.